What do CEOs, senators, and government officials have in common? All are powerful. And let's be honest, it's a pretty usual story to hear about a CEO who's committing fraud or a senator who's taking bribes. But their behavior often goes unchecked. It takes moral courage to speak out against those in positions of power who are using their power for harm. But it allows their injustice to be reprimanded and repaired, at least to a degree. It's easy for those in positions of power to fall into corruption. Even those who gain their position by their virtues often have the lure of power ending up to have them acting selfishly. For example, Dasher Keltner, a professor at the University of California, Berkeley, performed a study to see if those in leadership positions would act more entitled. He got together groups of 3 participants and randomly assigned one of them the leadership role. He then gave them an aimless writing assignment. 30 minutes in, he came in with a plate of 4 freshly baked cookies, and each one of the participants took one, leaving 1 cookie. It was almost always the person in the leadership position who took the extra cookie, depriving the others of it. They were also more likely to eat the cookie obnoxiously, smacking their lips or chewing with their mouth open. This proves that those in positions of power tend to act more entitled. But usually, those who are using their power for corruption go a little farther than taking an extra cookie. Officials can go as far as doing criminal activity and depriving those under them of basic rights because usually they're unchecked. It takes decent people to speak out against those who are using their power for harm. But it's extremely difficult to speak out because those who often do are criticized or marginalized. At the Irish Alley Bank, for example, which is full of fraudulent practices, three employees came forward. Three employees came forward to express their concerns to the board. Each one was either dismissed or criticized, and one was even accused of starting the fraudulent practices that he uncovered. So it's no wonder that no one wants to speak out against authorities, because as humans, we want to avoid exclusion and criticism at all costs. It's also hard to speak up because of the organizational pressure to obey our superiors. The article of Moral Courage and Intelligent Disobedience by Thomas and Shalluf discusses this. We all are taught to obey at an early age. It starts with our teachers, professors, parents, and goes on to our bosses. A lot of times we're not even thinking about what we're agreeing to, we just do whatever we're told. A perfect example of this is the US military, which is often known for putting mission before morals. A perhaps extreme example is in World War II with the Nazis. Tons of Nazi soldiers committed a horrible genocide just because they were ordered to. Any moral individual in their right mind would have realized what they were doing was wrong, but the organizational pressure to obey their superiors ended up in the killing of millions of Jews. What they needed was intelligent disobedience, a form of speaking out, to disobey their orders and to speak up against their authorities. But because of the threat of criticism and organizational pressure, this is extremely difficult. But historical examples have proven that speaking out against corrupt authorities has proven to be beneficial. A little more than a decade ago, Eloise Koval spoke out against the US government and their mismanagement of Native American funds. This is discussed in the article by Melinda Janko, who produced a film about Koval. Koval was born on the Blackfeet Reservation and so witnessed firsthand the neglect of Native Americans by the US government. She recalls stories of family members not receiving the money they were promised, and she knew for certain that the numbers weren't adding up when she became the treasurer of the Blackfeet tribe and later the founder of the Native American Bank. She set out on a mission to restore justice. It started out by talking to senators, congressmen, many of whom ignored her. And after 2 years, nothing had really changed. So she then decided to sue the US government along with the Native American Rights Fund. It took 15 long years to finally end the lawsuit, but in 2009, her efforts were rewarded. President Obama's resolution included $1.5 billion for members of the class, $1.9 million for a land consolidation program, and $60 million for a fund for education for Indian youth. Although no amount of money can make up for the suffering that Native Americans went through by the government and continue to go through, Koval's speaking out allowed some justice to be made. Another historical example of speaking out against corrupt authorities is Malala Yousafzai. According to the article by Carrie Lee Anderson, a writer for the National Women's History Museum, Yousafzai felt a passion for learning even as a girl. But when the Taliban took over Swat Valley, Pakistan, which is where she lived, they made it their goal to destroy girls' education. Even when she and her family had to move because of rising tensions, she started speaking out against the Taliban by blogging anonymously on the BBC about what she felt like living as a girl under Taliban rule. She continued to speak out, but this time didn't work openly, which made her a target for the Taliban. And at age 15, when coming home from school, she was shot in the head by 2 Taliban members. Even after having to go through months of medical treatment and having the left side of her face paralyzed, Yousafzai continued to speak out. She gave a speech on her 16th birthday to the United Nations, advocating for education specifically for girls. But she didn't stop there. Along with her father, she created the Malala Foundation, which raises funds and advocacy for education specifically for girls. For example, they created a film that raised funds and also awareness for the issue, and they also do work in specific countries. For example, in Kenya, which is becoming a digital hotspot, the foundation is setting up classes for girls to learn about computers. And also in Syria, it founded a school for children who are refugees or displaced. All of this could not have been possible without Yousafzai's courage in speaking out against the Taliban. Some argue that speaking out against authorities doesn't really make a difference, that because they have so much power, they're always going to have that much power, and there's not really anything that we can do about it. And although this is true to a degree, and often full justice is not restored, the historical examples of Malala Yousafzai and Eloise Koble have proven that speaking out can be beneficial. Decent people need to reveal the inequity of those using their power to harm others. Having the courage to speak out means helping those who are hurting under their rule. It's a tough path, but it paves the way towards justice and peace.
Thank you. Kate, how did your research question evolve as you moved through the process?
So I originally started out, I know I wanted to do something about speaking out, but it started out more broad, and I was going to do just speaking out like about anything in general or anything that you believe in. And I was going to use the Simone Biles article because she advocated for mental health. But as I researched a little more, I wanted to make it more specific, and I found more stuff about why it's important to speak out, and specifically against authorities.
Okay, thank you. What are the implications of your findings to our community?
I think the implications can be helpful to the community, especially for those who are living under corrupt authorities, and giving hope. I think especially the historical examples can prove that even an individual can make a difference by speaking out. So helping those who are under corrupt leadership.
Okay, thank you. Another round of applause.